Hello everybody, Corey here. We're going to go over the daily trades and holdings for July 3rd for the single stock ETFs and YBIT. As a reminder, I'm not a qualified licensed investment or financial advisor. I just gather the data, present it to you. Please make sure you understand YieldMax ETFs, how they work, and the risk associated with investing with them. All right, so okay, I put these in alphabetical order, and it looks like Coney will be our first one. So let's go and jump into the holding. Sorry, I don't even have this set up. Okay, here we go. So we have Abney here. Of course, unless otherwise stated, these are going to close on Friday, which is tomorrow. So we have Abney here with a short call of a 152.50 strike price, which it does look like we're over that strike price by 23 cents. So it looks like the stock dropped almost a couple of dollars there, and Abney dropped about, what was that, 5 cents. There could still be some upside here for the synthetic, but obviously the short call, there is no upside for that. Moving on to, let's see, hold on. Okay, forget the synthetics here. So we have AI, I don't know why it keeps spinning, AIYY. We have the short call of 29.50. We are underneath that 3% possible upside for the short call of 37 cents. And then we have the synthetic position that expires in a couple of weeks, and we're still under that 12%. We have AMDY, and we have 3 short calls. We have the 160, which we're over 2% or $3.90. 162.50, we're over 1% or $1.40. And then we have the 167.50, which we're under 2%. This is also where the majority of the contracts are. So we're looking about 30 or so cent upside possibly for AMDY. And actually looking over at the side, it looks like AMD was down about 41 cents, and AMDY stayed the same. And I didn't mention this before, but see, if you look at the NAV here and the difference, it's because of declaration date and ex-dividend date being Friday. So there is going to be a significant difference in the NAV due to the distribution. All right, so we have AMC here. We have 2 short calls, 200 strike price and a 207.50 strike price. We're underneath those 1 and 5%. We have an upside of about $1 here for AMC for the short calls. Then we have Apple. We have it 2 short calls, the 215 and the 217.50 strike price. We are over both of these 3 and 2%. So we're over the 215, about $6.55. So we're over the other one about $4.50 there. Sorry, I don't know why I said half. Okay, I guess it's just $4. So obviously no upside here for the short calls. There could be some upside for the synthetic, but looking here, you can see that the stock itself it went up somewhere around 75 cents, and Apple went up 4 cents. Of course, for the short calls, we only have 1 day left. For the synthetic, we do have a whole month left there. I gotta remember to look at the synthetics. Okay, then we have Coney. And I realize I did not change the formulas here, therefore this data isn't necessarily going to be correct because this says added. Well, I guess it did add. So let's look. Let's go over to our trades. Okay, yeah, it does say added. So let me zoom in for those of you on your phone. So you can see the top 4 lines have to do with Coney. And the first 2 is the original synthetic that was going to close on July 19th with the strike price of $260. So what they did was they rolled these to August 16th. to the 230 strike price. Of course, the stock price was at 224 or almost 225 at the close on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Yesterday was Wednesday. So still not, the stock price still isn't over that strike price, but it is closer to it. However, it cost a lot of money to do that. I don't know. I mm, I don't know why these percentages are way off, and I wonder if it's because of the new way that we've done things. So I'm just going to hide this because clearly we have issues there, which then let me go over to here and we'll just make this red. Remember me to look at it because we have changed things and I haven't. There may be something there that I need to change, or I may have to take it away altogether. So let's see. All right. So anyway, again, the top two. So you can see here that it cost almost $48 million to close those synthetic positions for the almost 14,000 contracts. So then you can see the new amounts here. So if we add these together, it ended up costing $43.3 million total. I'm guessing they had this in cash to be able to pay this. Just gonna look here. Oh, yeah, they did not. So they must have to take some money out of the treasuries to cover that. $731. $628. So that's 100,000 less, and we can see that here. Of course, then we have the dividend distribution as well on top of that. So, yeah. All right, so so that makes me go back to yesterday. Okay, they did have two synthetics, the 230 and the 260. All right, so they did add that there, and so now we can see we're pushed out at least another month or so, month and a couple of weeks. We have two short calls here, the 230 and the 232.50 strike prices were underneath those 2 and 3%. We're looking at about a 44-cent upside for the short calls. All right, so I didn't look to see what's after that. So, okay, we'll have to remember to come back to crash because I forgot to move that. This whole new setup thing is going to take a minute to get used to, unless I decide to figure something else out. But we do have Dizzo here. Next. So Dizzo here, they closed out the short call that was going to expire on Friday with the 103 strike price. And they went ahead and moved this out to next week. So you can see they paid 4 cents to close that out there. So they went from a 103 to a 100 strike price. Of course, we were at 98.61 at the close on Friday. And then, of course, you can see the premium that they received for that. All right. So you can see there the new short call for next week. We are currently underneath that by 1%, which gives us about a 25-cent possible upside for the short call for Dizzo. We also have the synthetic position that closes in a couple of weeks with the 105 strike price, and we are currently underneath that 6%. We could move down to Phoebe here. We have a short call that expires Friday with a 525 strike price. We're currently underneath that 3%, and we have about a 56-cent upside here for Phoebe. Then we have GDXY. I saw trades, but I don't know what they were. Okay, so, oh, we do have closed. So the first 4 lines there. So let's go to the right. So they added 160 contracts. So they added those to the synthetic, and then they also added it to the short call for next week. And then you can see that they closed out the short call that was going to expire this week with a $34.50 strike price, and it's now at a $36 strike price there. And you can see all of those. So let's see, they ended up paying out $63,000 there. Oh, that's a lot of JPMO. All right. So you can see here where they added the 160 and our new short call with the added 160, and the rest of the contracts rolled over. But yeah, we had the $36 strike price for that short call that expires next week. We're currently underneath that 2%, which is crazy because on Wednesday the stock rose $1.26. And so now we're only 72 cents below the strike price there, which gives us about a 38-cent upside for GDXY for the short call. And then we have the synthetic that expires in a couple of weeks with a 38 strike price, and we're currently underneath that 7%. Which is, yeah, almost $3. All right, we're going to move on to GUI. GUI, we have 2 short calls expire on Friday, 182.50 strike price, which we are over 2%, and the 185 strike price, which we are over 82 cents. So no upside here for the short calls. Could go up based on the synthetic market value. If we look at the data over here, it looks like Google went up almost 60 cents, which made GUI go up 4 cents. And then JPMOs. So we had lots of stuff going on that other tab. So just looking at here, it looks like they closed out all the synthetics and short calls, and now we have new ones. But let's look at those trades. I feel like I need to freeze panes. It would probably make this easier. All right. So just so I can see which ones belong to what, since we don't have different sections now. So the top 4 lines are all synthetic. So let's look at the bottom 4, because we know, usually if we're looking at a synthetic, then we should probably be looking at the short call, because there's a reason that the synthetic's being closed out. So we can see here we had 2 short calls with the 202.50 and the 205 strike price, and you can see that we were over those strike prices. So to close those out, it's going to cost $627,000. Of course, the premium they received, it wasn't enough to cover it, so we still needed $500,000. So let's look up here. If we look at our synthetics up here, we had a $200 strikes, and they moved them from the 200 to the 210. So they actually put the strike price above the current stock price. And of course, you usually want your stock price to be above the synthetic strike price. So we'll still have a ways to go, and hopefully that it does go up above it. But by closing out those synthetic positions, they brought in $860,000. So if we look at the total synthetic, they actually brought in a little over $1 million, which would cover the $500,000 additional needed to pay for the short calls that were closed out. So if we look at all of them, they brought in $555,000 extra. All right, so now if we look here, we see all of our new strike prices. Again, like I said, that we have the 210 strike price for the synthetic. We're 1% underneath that. These won't expire now for a month and a half. And then we have the short call here that will expire next week with a 215 strike price, and we're underneath that 3%. So we have a possible upside of 58 cents for JPMO. Then we have Murney here that has 4 short calls that will expire tomorrow. We have the 119, 125, 127, and 129 strike prices. We're underneath those 3, 7, 9, and 10%. The majority of the contracts are sitting between the 125 and 127. So we're looking at about 50 or so cents upside here for the short calls for Murney. MSFO, we have 1 short call that expires tomorrow, 457.50 strike price, which we're currently over by 1%, or $3.27. So obviously no upside for the short calls, possible upside for the synthetic, but you can see here, again, possible, right? Because you can see the MSFO stock actually went down 1 cent, while Microsoft actually went up $1.50. So it all depends on what that market value is. So there's an example where, it doesn't necessarily, the synthetic isn't necessarily going to, be worth more there. So let's move on to Misty. We have 3 short calls that expire tomorrow, 1467.50, 1505, and the 1540. The majority of the contracts are sitting at the 1505, so a possible upside there. Hold on, it's hard to see this with these being all messed up and out of order. The majority are at the 1505, and then we have 185, and that one's above it, so we're looking, a little over $3 possible upside for Misty. All right, let's move on to Nestle. We have 2 short calls that expire on tomorrow, and the 682.50, we are over by 1 cent. And then we had the 695 strike price, which we're under by 2%. So we have a possible upside of 31 cents here for the short calls. And then we have NVIDIA. We have 5 short calls that expire Friday, 127, which are over $1.28. And then we have the 129. We're only underneath that one, 72 cents. Then the 130, 131, 132, and and that's it. Sorry, the next one's the synthetic. So with this, I know that first one we're over, but the rest of them were under 1 to 3% there. The majority of the contracts are sitting at the 131 strike price. So we're looking at about 50 cent upside possible here for NVIDIA. All right, then we have OARC. So we had some trades here. So they closed out the short call that was going to expire on Friday with a 44 strike price, and they have rolled those to next week with a 46 strike price. So you can see that the stock closed at 45.61 on Wednesday, so we were over that strike price of $1.61 at close. They ended up paying to close these out $1.50 a share, which cost almost $2.5 million. They must have had enough in cash, as they did not close out or roll the synthetics to get cash to pay for these. Either that, or they could have possibly taken them out of Treasury, similar to what they've had to do with Coney, but Coney had to take theirs out of Treasury because it was the synthetic that they had to pay for. So maybe they had the cash here for OARC. But we can see here the total trades, their total amount receipt or paid out was 1,645,000. So if we move it back over here, we can see we have that new short call there. So we do have the synthetics here with the $45 strike price. So that's looking good. We are above that, and this expires in a couple of weeks. And then now we have the short call for next week with a $46 strike price with a possible upside of 9 cents here for the short call itself. But you can see yesterday this ARC went up almost $1, and OARC only went up, 6 cents here. And then PayPay, I don't recall seeing trades, so I'm guessing not, but let's look. Yeah, so Snowy is our next one here. So we have PayPay with the 2 short calls with the $59 and $60 strike price. Of course, we closed at $59.64, so we are above one strike price by 64 cents and below the other strike price by 36 cents. So maybe a couple of cent upside here for the short calls, maybe. But it looks like we did end up going up 10 cents the other day. PayPal itself didn't go up quite $1. All right, so Snowy is our next one. Looking here, it looks like they basically closed out the synthetics and the short calls, and now we have new ones. So let's look at those trades. All right, so let's look at Snowy's short calls, since we have both of these being closed out. Yep, the short calls were 134 and 139, and the stock price was at 142.86. So if we go over here to the side, we can see to close these out, I guess because they don't have many, it wasn't too much, because we're still low here on Snowy being new. But they ended up having to pay out $145,000. Of course, even with the premium received, they didn't have enough money there. They still needed another $108,000. So up here to close out the synthetics, they brought in $255,000. But then we need to account for the new synthetic positions, which ended up being a total of 138. So if we take all of the trades together, they ended up bringing in $29,000. Yeah, so you can see all the data there. But let's move on over to our holdings. So we can see the short call with a new strike price of 147, which are currently unearned by 3%. So that gives Snowy a possible upside of 61 cents. And then we have Squee. Let me look. So, so Ulti's going to be in the middle of that stuff too now. All right, so Zomo is the only one we have trades left for. So Squee here, we have the short call for Friday with the $65 strike price. We're underneath that 1% or 56 cents. This is a possible upside for Squee of 17 cents. And then we have our synthetics that's going to close or expire in 2 weeks, and we're currently underneath that 8%. Then we have Tesla here. We have the short call that expires next week at $2.45, and we're already over this strike price by 1% or $1.39. Tesla did end up going up, about 61 cents yesterday, but we are capped on our short call already, because the stock did go up over $15. All right. And then Zomo. So let's go down here. let's go over. So they had the short call that expired on Friday with the 117 strike price. It cost them 15 cents to close this out. They went ahead and rolled it, to next week. Not exactly sure why, because it wasn't, less than 5 cents. It cost 15 cents. So yeah, not sure why they did that. Let's go back over here. Yeah, I don't know what they did or why they did, or if this is a typo. Let's look over here. All right, so yep, we had 24.65, 117. I honestly think this must be a typo. I just don't. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Because usually they won't close these, if they're 5 cents or less. Sometimes they'll do a 6 or something cents, but this is 15 cents. We still had 2 something to go, and it was 66 of them out of all of them. It just, I don't know. Maybe they did make some money on it. Maybe they needed money which doesn't make sense, it's only $3,800, but maybe they needed more money to pay for the distributions, which again, with such small amount, usually they could go in the negative and then it'll be okay, because then they'll close that out on Friday anyway. So I can't say why they did this, but you can see at the close on the close on yesterday, Wednesday, that it would only cost them 5 cents to close those out. So I'm not sure. I can't tell you why exactly this was done, because I do not know why. But anyway, we have 2 short calls now. One that will expire Friday, which is where the majority of the contracts are, and then we have the 66 contracts that expired next Friday, both at the 117 strike price. Looks like we only have about, somewhere around a 33-cent upside here for the short calls. And then crash. So I almost forgot about this. This one did have some trades. So let's go back over, but it's in alphabetical order. So we had 2 short puts with the 187.50 and the 190 strike prices that were going to expire on Friday, and they closed those out. And now we have a 230 short put for next week. And actually what they did, because I remember seeing this, we had a total of 485, so they took half of those and went ahead and did a position, and then they still have the other half, which they'll probably put on Friday. But overall, they brought in a total of $64,000 here. It only cost them 2 cents to close these out. All right, so if we look here, we can see, of course, we have our synthetics that close in 2 weeks. And did I not? No, I guess is 45% right? No. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to do math in my head here. But we have these synthetics with the 170 strike price. So this is crash, so we are looking for the opposite here. So normally with all the others that are long positions, usually for the synthetic, we want the stop price to be above this. In this case, we want the stock price to be below this. And you can see we're not even close. So if we had to close this synthetic position out, it would cost 3.7 million, which is why and it expires in 2 weeks, but that's why this is showing over on the right hand side here that it's bringing the share price down almost $7 a share, which is why crash is down to about $14 now. Then we have our short put here, the new short put for next week. We have the 230 strike price. This is where we would normally not want the stock price to go above this. Of course, in this case for crash, it is the opposite. And we only have half the shares, right? So that's why I have that highlighted, the yellow, the 245 there. And then we have our long call that also expires in a couple of weeks with the 265 strike price. And it's going to bring in a little bit of money, but not as much money as the synthetic is costing. So this is like, our first and new. So you're sort of seeing now what happens when the underlying is not going down and it's going in the complete, going the opposite, and it's raging in the opposite direction. So we can see that this has dropped significantly regardless of that long call there. And it's just still, again, not worth as much as this right here is killing us. So, all right. And then we have YBit here, which I added because we still currently only have one synthetic. At least I assume so. So let's make sure. Yeah, they just have this as 2 BITO instead of it just saying BITO, so it's out of order. So we have Y. I guess because they have these labeled incorrectly. Because you have this short call and this short call, and they're both 22. It's because this says 2 BITO and this says BITO. It should just say BITO, and it would bring those together. Only the synthetic puts here normally say the 2, so it's messing it all up. We have several of these that's been like this for the past few weeks now, so it's been messing up the order of everything. But we have the $22 strike price with 9,350 contracts. Then we have the $22.50 with 9,445 contracts. And we're currently at $21.16. So we're underneath the strike prices by 4 and 6%, with a possible upside of about 26 cents for YBit. And then the synthetics, these don't expire till next month, but we are underneath the strike price of $35. Of course, BITO just announced its, oh man, where's my phone? It just announced its distribution. So that's going to make a difference here on these strike prices and stuff. But yeah, I don't know what it was. I just remember somebody saying it was their biggest ever, so I don't know exactly what that means, and I don't know what it was off the top of my head. I can look here real quick and see if it's in my thing. If I don't see it here, my Moo account, then we'll just move on. Dividends, July 1st. Yep, so July 1st was the ex-dividend date, so it dropped $1.50. Alright, so it already dropped. Guess I missed that because I don't hold Bitto. Not that even I would know, I don't even know what the prices are of any of the ones I hold or whatever. I don't pay attention because I'm too busy doing all these YouTube videos. But yeah, so apparently it was $1.50 there. And I guess it makes sense because I do remember Bitto being somewhere around 23 or so dollars. All right. So, but anyway, that is all of these. And then next I'll do the video for the daily roundup. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I will talk with y'all later.